Call is now being recorded.
Esta es Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Joe Perez.
un preso recluido de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Hello.
Hello? Yeah,
Hey.
good morning.
Good morning. Hey, how's it going today, Joe? How are you doing today?
It's going good. It's going good. Nothing in prison is predetermined, right? So I made this appointment for you for 10:30 because I wanted to go work out at Yard and come in, and we didn't have no program, so that was canceled. You know?
Are the officers still calling off? For the new year? Is that what's happening?
No, it was the incident. No, it was the incident that happened. We usually go to breakfast, and inmates call that chow time. You know, like, oh, it's chow time. And there's a story about chow time that I didn't like in the county because I thought that cops were calling us dogs, but we're not even going to go into that. But they call it chow time, and it was late. Today it was like at 7:30. So when something like that happens, you kind of know an incident happened on the yard. So when we walked, there were very few officers, and I'm like, okay, they're doing paperwork, or they're in the with the inmates with the cages, right? So I just asked him, is there going to be program? And he was like, yeah, there should be. It might be delayed. So I got ready, came back, get ready for yard, and then they were like, you know what, guys, it's a wrap. No yard, no day room, no nothing today. And we were like, okay. So then I was just in here waiting, and as we had the schedule, like, I don't want to call in earlier because you might have somebody else on, you know. So I just been waiting right here, and that's how my day's been going.
Man, and that's when and that's what happens when you end up in places like this in prison. You don't have control over your life and pretty much your day-to-day routine. It's unpredictable. Some days you might be able to get to do what you need to do, and some days you might not be able to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think it was Righteous Monkey, or I don't know who it was that left a comment like about the routine. And I'm just explaining, like, my routine back then was all evil, it was all violent, it was all this and that, right? And now it's I'm on the rehabilitation trip, trying to change lives, trying to build a better community. But today reminds me of all my anger I used to have when I first came to prison. Like, if this would have happened back then, I would be going crazy in the cell. I'll be like, this tower don't even know, and you get animated, and your Sally feels the same way, and you both are like, you're just fueling off this energy, and it's evil, and it's angry energy. So program, looking back to the question, routine is huge in prison. It might not be as huge for a veteran in prison because you kind of conditioned yourself already. You kind of been hit a million times, so you know how to shift and move. But for a new person coming to prison, yeah, routine is huge, and today reminded me of that, thinking back when I was young.
Man, and to change the topic, I've been thinking about your journey that you went through. You went with you took us through yesterday, and man, and I was just kind of like tripping on like everything, like you're like I recall how you were saying that you didn't want to join a gang, and how your friends and whatnot, you're trying to pressure you, and you told them that it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen, and then ultimately you end up getting yourself to prison, and then now you're involving yourself in all these gang activities, pretty much, and then and it's like,
yeah.
And it's like you're always trying to one up everybody. So like I recall like how you were mentioning that one guy you met that had done three shoot terms, and you wanted, he had done 2 shoot terms, and you wanted to do 3.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking of. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that when I'm living my life, I don't realize what I'm doing back then. I don't know I'm trying to one up him. Like, looking back, I could see that. Looking back, I could see what I was doing. But as it's happening, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just thugging. Like, I'm just chilling. I'm just gelling right here. Like, I'm just living my life. There's nothing wrong. But when, he tells me he's done 2 shoe terms, and the homies are looking at him, and even me, I'm looking at him like, oh, this fool's a G. In my mind, even back then, I'm like, well, I want 2 shoe terms. If he got it, I want it, because I already placed him higher than me, right? And that was a huge problem within me, but I couldn't even see it. I couldn't even realize it,
Yeah.
There's another thing I want to say, because I didn't say this about the county jail, right? But it's not going to be long. It's going to be very quick. One of my close friends gets stabbed by a guy from Paris, and I run into this guy from Paris, and he's telling me about his crime, and I'm like, because remember, you share paperwork, you're telling your stories of what got you to jail. He tells me his crime, and I'm like, hey fool, I think you stabbed my homeboy, and he's like,
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
It's an epiphany now, right? So like, he's barely being busted. He don't got his paperwork yet, and I'm like, I'm gonna check on that. I'm gonna call my homeboy, and I call him, and I'm like, hey fool, did this fool stabbed you from so and so? He's like, yeah, that's our mother. Like, get him. He's telling me, get him. And in here, I'm like, get him. Like, it's not registering to my brain. Like, I know I'm taking a stance on this gang that I got busted for in the county. I know that's one thing. But for me to back up another man on this other gang, like, it didn't click to me, and I'm like, that's wrong. We don't do that, right? So I'm grasping that, but I'm really getting at my homeboy, because this guy's in jail, and you had 2 girls in the car that told on him, and you need to fix this. And my homie's telling me, like, he's thinking like I'm betraying him, like, you're not my friend because you're not getting off on this fool, and I can't reach him and you can. And I'm flipping it like, no, fool. Like, this guy, I understand he stabbed you. Let's get him out, and then you could get back out there. Giving him time in prison is not what we do. So I'm trying to get him off the hook, and at the same time, I tell the homie in jail with me, I'm like, hey fool, look, like, we're gonna try to get you out, but I'm telling my homeboy he's gonna get his runbacks out there, and any man that's in prison, he's like, yeah, no problem, like, fool, you know what I mean? Like, we could run that, like, and I'm like, yeah, fool. But so I wasn't lying to neither side. I was telling the homie, like, hey, we're gonna try to get you out, but and because I didn't feel right, like, plotting behind him back. I'm on some manly stuff right here. So I'm telling him like a man to man, like, this is the plan, fool. Like, you're not gonna walk out the county jail and they're gonna kill you, but like anybody else, you want him out so you could get your revenge out there, and dealing with it with the law is not appropriate, in our eyes, and in the criminal lifestyle. And that's what I just wanted to throw in real quick, because like, I'm sharing all these stories with you, and you're like, you James, you're seeing how I'm moving. But even look at that. Like, nobody's telling me to do that, but I'm doing it,
And since you did share, that story with us, what was the outcome of that? What ended up happening? Did that dude end up getting out, or what transpired?
Okay, what transpired was this. The homie said he talked to the girls, and he said, like, I told him not to testify, and like, we're like, the damage is done. They already said it, but just don't show up to trial, don't show up to court no more. Just like disappear on the cops, right? And he said he told them. Now, in reality, maybe he's so mad at this guy he don't tell him, or maybe he's lying to me, or maybe he did tell him. Like, no one's to know on this side. But the guy in jail, he ended up getting 17 years for that stabbing. And he did the he did the whole 17 years. Like, he came to prison, and he comes back in my story.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
The guy that's doing time, he comes back into my stories like way in the future, like in 2010-ish, right? But after this, he disappears. We go to different prisons, and we do meet up before then. But he's a normal guy. He's a gang member, of course, but he like plays soccer, and he plays handball, and he's never there in the discussions, and he's like a non-factor on the yard, He's just a regular homie. But yeah, he got the 17 years for the crime.
And you know what? And I'm glad you're dropping, stories like that, or I would say gems, because, this is the reality of, going to prison. or involving yourself in criminal activities or gangs on the street, is that ultimately, whether people tell directly or indirectly, or use proxies, to tell, uh, it most likely is going to end up all the same. You're going to either end up 6 feet deep in prison, or crippled. There's just no future. Yeah, it's fun, but in the long run, or in the future, it's not going to work out. It never does. Look at all these movies. Yeah, everything's fine and dandy with Scarface, but what happens to him at the end? What happens to the dude in American Me? What happens to the people in Blood and Blood Out? They don't ride off into the sunset. They never do, and that doesn't happen. So these are the things that people got to think about. You're not gonna.
Yeah.
There is no future in it.
Yeah, and about no future, right? This lifestyle is so addicting, right? Like, you get drawn into it, and then you're knee deep into it. Remember I told you about the Boys in the Hood guy that got killed? Well, there's another Boys in the Hood guy that has a famous story too, and it's the guy he's portraying to be a Blood in the movie, and he pops out the window and he has a shotgun, and Ricky's running through the alley, and he shoots Ricky, right? Well, I don't know this man personally. I don't know how he grew up, but I know the stories I have heard about him was that he was some normal dude. He grew up in like a nice part of Los Angeles. He got in the movie, and now he's exposed to this movie, and now he's exposed to this stuff, and this fool really starts getting with it, and he gets with it so much that he ends up in prison, and he's traveling down the lines of violence, and he ends up in Pelican Bay, and this is the only part of the story that I don't know which is which. I do believe they killed him in prison. His cellie killed him, or he killed the cellie. Like, it's one or the two. But this is a Hollywood actor that is playing a role, and this is where his life ends up. Just like James said, it's a lose-lose situation. And over here in Southern California, like these Hollywood lives and this street life, like, they kind of entwine on the streets, I had a cellie that was in here for he was in here for allegedly shooting Suge Knight's bodyguards, because he was in the club, and as a criminal he felt like, this is my night and I'm doing this, and then Suge Knight comes in and they're like, this is art, you know what I mean? And they have a dispute and people get shot, and he got a life sentence off of that. People go to high schools, and the high schools they go to, like, they're gang infested, but Hollywood starlets come out of there. Like, it's like a different world over here, and we're all in a pot, and it's going as it. I mean, you can't stop time. It's happening in real life,
And right now, just shed some light on what you just mentioned. My Google searching skills are pretty good, so I was able to pull up that gentleman you were speaking about, and that would have been Lloyd Avery. And he was in September of 2004, or sorry, September 4th of 2005. He was fatally attacked by his cellmate, Kevin Roby, also known as, I'm not gonna even say his name, but yeah. So he was. They put him. He's gone. That's it. Game over. He's
gone. He died. Yeah.
Yep.
Lights out.
Yep.
Lights out. And it's a real lights out, because my lights are out too, but I'm still talking and breathing. Like, I'm still here. That man will never walk away from that date in 2005. His parents lost a son, and they're never gonna get him back.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that with us. Because it's somebody in Hollywood. They had something positive going on, and look how it turned out for him. Very unfortunate. He ended up going, taking that route, and people, dream about.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
Dream about, hitting Tinseltown and making money and being famous and whatnot. And he was, that was one of those movies that blew up. So I'm pretty sure propelled them to stardom.
Yeah. Forever, everybody knew that guy as the guy that shot Ricky. And he looked hard. He looked hard as hell in the movie doing it. He looked real. He looked legit, but maybe some of that rubbed off too much, and after that his life starts, it went down the wrong path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Well, how much? We got about 15 seconds before it cuts off. If you want to go ahead and call me back, and then we could go ahead and or you could get into your journey. From the last point that we left off at.
Okay, I'll hang up right now. I'll call right back.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we're currently live with Joe here. He's been down for or maybe you don't know, but he's been down for 27 years for a murder, and he's been down since he's 17. Definitely a long time. And this is one of the reasons that I decided to start this stream here on YouTube was to share these stories, unfiltered stories of the things.
This call is now being recorded.
Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Joe Perez.
un preso recluido de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
Hello, Joe.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? I want to throw something out there before you start. In no way, shape, way, or form are we trying to glorify, any of the things you've been through as growing up, and ultimately you ended up in prison. We're not trying to glorify any of these things, but we are trying to use this as a public service announcement, as a cautionary tale of you keep on doing wrong, and just shedding light on your story and what could happen to you if you're going down that path, what you have coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm telling my story, like, knowledge is power, and because I don't have knowledge on my feelings, on what's going on with me, I keep going down. So that's why we're sharing stories like this. Now, it's going to go to a point where I can explain a lot of things, but we're just not there yet in the storyline, right? So as I'm sharing the stories, and I'm only sharing some stories that were like impactful, that were like dragging me down more, or what I was thinking, or what I was feeling, or how could you have continued this life? Like, in a normal mind, a citizen will probably commit a crime, and they'll repent for the crime, and they'll do good, right? Well, this mind didn't know that, because when I committed the murder, I'm not, in my mind, when I'm 17, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do at that time. I'm living this lifestyle, and I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm just saying I'm living it. My belief system is, if you do this to me, I'm going to do that to you. If you do this here, I'm going to do that there. And it's only because I don't know what's going on. So I hope some of these stories, like if you see any of this going on with somebody, you could just, shed light, or you could, hey guys, like, you should really listen to this here, because ultimately we're gonna swing back around, and we're gonna connect the dots for everybody on how, like, things were going so bad. Because I could see it clear now, but I couldn't see it back then. So like James said, we're not glorifying nothing. We're just taking you down a road, an experience, and then we're going to show you also how the road ends, and how the road, how it shifts, or whatever happens in the road,
Yeah, thank you. And ultimately, it's up to the person that's listening to this or watching this, to figure out what you're going to do with the information that's being provided to you.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
Some people might say, "Nah, that'll never happen to me. That happened to him. It can't happen to me. I'm too smart." I'm a smart criminal. I do things and I get away. Uh,
Yeah.
if you are participating in things like that, I would suggest don't participate with anybody. Don't carry a cell phone around, and make sure there's no cameras around. But that's pretty much not going to happen nowadays. The way everything runs. There's cameras all over the place. Your either your watch or your phone. You have GPS. So they know where you're at. So
Yeah.
why even bother?
Yeah. Why even go down that route? And more importantly, like everybody's mom had it the right way. Stay home and watch TV. My mom used to say that to me because I was always, as a little kid, I'm talking about like 7, 8, 9. Like I was a street baby. Like even if it was on my own street, I wasn't in the house. And she'll be like, stay home and watch TV. And the sad thing is, I never listened. And all these years later, that's all I can do is stay in a cell, which is like our home in here, and watch TV. That's literally all we do, you know? Um, with that said, yeah, James?
Sorry, I was eating right now. That's why I didn't unmute
Oh,
the
okay.
mic. But I'll go ahead and hand that off to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Um, I believe where we left off in the last session was me discovering like the shoe and Tehachapi, and this is 1999. The year is 1999, and something I forgot to mention, because these are all old memories, guys. Like sometimes I might skip, and I have to go back if it's important enough, right? And this one is the older gentleman I was living with from Long Beach, the one that was like, hey, we kind of sit down and pee, and he's trying not boss me around, but he's trying to give me guidance, and he's trying to tell me like, you don't got to be up all day, you don't got to be soldier 101, right? Well, in that section, there is a guy, and we call him Casper, and he's from San Diego. This gentleman had been stabbed up on 4 different prison yards, right? And at this time, because we're going to be talking about, I want to share everything with you guys. Protective custody at this time is about 5% in the California prison system. Now, this gentleman that had been stabbed up 4 times, these are at 4 different prisons. Like, wherever he goes, he's getting stabbed up. And you will kind of save stuff like that for, like, as I talked about it before, like a child molester, a rapist. Like, the mindset was, like, get those guys out of here. They can't stay, right? Not because they can't stay, but because it could have been your sister. It could have been your son or your daughter, right? So you're empathizing with the victims, and you're handling it poorly by committing further violence, right? Well, that guy didn't do none of that. But for whatever reason, he found himself in a situation, and he was he couldn't take no for an answer. And the no is that you're not going to be welcomed anywhere you go. So as soon as you come over here, you're going to leave with blood. There's only one way to say that. So when I land in this section with this older guy from Long Beach, he's telling me about his story, and he's like, "That's a good dude right there, man. That dude's been through hell and back, and he's all heart. He's not showing no break in him, And I'm like, "What happens to that guy?" And he's like, "Well, eventually, he has to make a tough choice, and he has to leave, or if he don't, one of these times, we're gonna kill him." And I'm saying we're gonna kill him because this is a part of me now. Like, this will be my task, And that guy ends up throwing in the towel right there, He ends up he ends up realizing that this road that he's walking is going to take him to the death now. Now he's in a death stage, and he's only going to get the death as any reward moving forward. So this guy throwing in the towel means like he's going PC, he's going protective custody. And I know it probably took everything that man had to do that, but he did it right here, and I forget about him.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I completely forget about him after this, and he goes, I never see him again. I'll never be around him again, But I say this because this is like a 5% population at the time. Now, when I get released from the SHU, I am getting released with bad intentions. Now, I won't go into detail of certain things, but, for sure there was an agenda. There was an agenda, and I kind of walked into it. I didn't even know. The agenda was with another man, and he will be my cellmate. And as criminals do, like, I got your back, fool. I'm with you, 100%. You're coming out the SHU. I'm coming out the SHU. You're like 3 years older than me. You're more seasoned than me. I could see it. I'm here. I'm here for you all the way, And me and this gentleman were led to believe that things were going to be easy and it was going to be simple. And when we got out there, it was very, very complicated. Like, things were not exactly as they were thought to be. Matter of fact, they weren't even nearly close as they were thought to be, right? And we walk out to this main line, which is my first line, and it's a 180, and it's in Tehachapi. And these yards are the most severe. So in the most severe yard you could be on in California, I am in the middle of everything. And I am like a 19-year-old kid. That's maybe 20, but I'm a kid still. I shouldn't even be in these realms, of La Pinta yet. And we have so many adventures out there within a short time. These are some of them, right? We thought there were going to be a riot out there when, like we thought riots were full bloom out there when we went out. Now, granted, we knew they were locked down, but we were walking into this kind of environment. So day one, when we get out the SHU, we're making weapons, and they're not even good weapons. They're the stupidest weapons you can make. We're breaking down state-issued cups. They say shower. This is a controlled environment. So when they say shower, they open our door. No other door is open. But us being new, I'm a rookie. I go to the shower with my weapon, and I don't even turn the water on. I'm just waiting in there for another cell to come out, and if it's the wrong cell, I'm going to assault this man. And that doesn't happen because, again, these are very controlled environments. So we go back in the cell, and now we feel like we lost because we didn't even get a victim, and, we feel a sense of disappointment. Anyways, as the month continues, we're locked down for like 30 days. So for 30 days, there's no yard. And these fools are coming off an extensive lockdown because of the riots they were having. Now they're saying this is peacetime. So we start going to yard, and, monkey see, monkey do, top behavior. One of the things that I learned by just viewing was when you drive up, you'll be like, hey, who's here from the area? No matter where you're from, you kind of meet somebody in your part of town on the streets, and you ask them, and they're telling me da 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 da, and all these names I don't know, but one name I do, and it's Jimmy's crime partner, this little kid that was busted for all that crazy stuff. So when they say that name, I'm like, boom. I wanted to help you, Sally, but I'm gone. I'm going to do this, And furthermore, this guy had been stabbed at Delano Reception Center. He almost lost his eye over there, because when he left the county, like, as people that are accustomed to prison, they know that things follow you, right? So now I'm here with him, and now I want to get that. And somebody already got that in New Delano Reception, or not New Delano, excuse me, North Kern, I believe it's called. It's Old Delano. New Delano's not built yet. And we get ready, we do all that, and then he has an entourage around him. This is the best way I'm going to say this. He has an entourage around him, and they're all saying, like, I'm wrong. and I'm new to La Pinta, so I don't understand this, and I know I'm right. I know in my heart of hearts I'm right. So they persuade me to not do nothing, right? And I'm like, okay, we'll sit it out, because now everyone's doing fact checks, and they're like, just wait for the fact check to come back. Just wait, because if you do this now, you'll be the one in trouble. But if it comes out everything you're saying, and it felt like I was against the whole line right here, and I'm gonna tell you why, guys. Because what I did not know at the time was that this 180 yard got flipped, and what that means is the whole yard used to belong to protective custodies. Now we started getting filtered into it, and when we started getting filtered into it, I mentioned the guy that got a life sentence. I mentioned two guys that got life sentences in there. That's
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
part of their life sentence was for committing violent acts against these protective custody inmates, trying to swing the yard over so we could steal a yard close to home, because Tehachapi is like 3 hours away, and for us that's close to home. And in time we captured it. Now everyone thinks everybody on this yard is on the up and up, and it isn't like that. Some guys that were very seasoned, they stayed. And what did they do? They made weapons for all the little guys coming up, and they told them, get him, get him, get him. And in time, these little guys looked at these guys like, oh, these are our OGs. And they have manipulated and stole the yard, right? So to speak. And this is what I walk into. And these guys are trying to get rid of me too at the same time, because my celly's telling me everything they're saying. And
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Apologies, I'm over here stuffing my face. So Joe should be calling us back shortly. As soon as he does, my apologies. My daughter came. She was showing me a little drawing that she just did right now. She's real. Well, I think she's talented. She's 5 years old, and she loves to draw. She has like all kinds of colors and markers and glitter and scissors.
This call is now being
Esta es
recorded.
Global Tel-Link. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Joe Perez.
un preso recluido de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel-Link.
Hello.
Hello?
All right. Tell
Yeah.
you.
Okay. And well, this is what's happening, guys. These guys that manipulated this whole thing, they're saying something's wrong about me. Like I told on someone in the county, I got my crimey busted. They're throwing this out, and my cellmate that I was like, hey, I got your back 100%. He's part of them now. They're all in a big old little cahoots car, right? So they're telling him everything, and he's telling me because he believes in me. So he's like, I'm not going to let you get done like that. Like, they're going to do it, but I want you to have the heads up. So, I can never say he told me that stuff or whatever, right? These are loyalties within loyalties. So every yard I go to, like, I'm strapped. I got a weapon on me. There's times I have a box cutter on me. There's times where I have a piece of metal sharpened, But every day I'm waiting to get attacked on this yard. And I'm like, when it happens, they're going to be on the wrong. That's the terminology we use. They're in the wrong, I'm in the right, right? So I'm just waiting for stuff to happen. And I see my first stabbing on the yard, and it's blacks. And for the most part, in the history, blacks don't stab that much. So when you see a black guy stab somebody, like, he is certified, because there's no push for them to do it. They will have to make the individual push, like they are just that guy, you know. So where they're doing that, we're all high. In these times, they have cigarettes, they have tobacco, and they have cigarette lighters on the outside of the buildings, and we're all smoking marijuana on the yard. So when they're doing this, it's like a one-on-one, and then it turns to a two-on-one, and it's getting bigger, and then it turns to like a six-on-four scuffle between blacks. So we're all still smoking weed, and the cops are running over there, and everything's happening. And we're laughing, and we're joking, and we're like, dang, that fool's got it today, you know? And I forget. First of all, I'm high, I'm young, I'm stupid. I forget I have a box cutter on me in my boxers, right? And more importantly, I forget I have a syringe in these boxers too. Now, I don't slam, but I have the syringe, and this is why. In the morning time, my neighbors get caught using it. A cop walks by, sees them. This cop is the coolest old man, and he looks at them and he tells them, hey guys, it's all right, like everybody does it. He's telling them, I'm not going to hit your cell, because they're spooked. Now, when he leaves, they tell me this in the vent, and I am a kid. These guys are older than me, and I am scolding them like I'm their dad. Like, who was keeping lookout? Why'd you guys get caught? Because, again, I'm in this zone where I'm controlling things. And they're like, man, we messed up. They're going to hit our house. And I'm like, look, I'm going to shoot the line over there, which is a way of transportation in prison, a fishing line, and I'm going to go get it, and I'm going to hold it and let them hit your house. And what I'm doing here is I'm protecting them as a criminal. But you don't realize that when you're doing it. You're just like, man, these stupid fools, and you take it. So I got this with me on at yard. I took this all the way with me to yard because I felt like you don't leave nothing in the house. You carry everything on you. So when I'm high right here and these black guys get into it, the incident is over. Everybody's laying down, proned out, and they're like, A section, one block, A section, return to the building. So it's a controlled movement back to the building. So it's only so many inmates that live in this little section of the prison. So when we go back, I am high, everyone's guard is down, and I am new. There's still much I have to learn about prison, and this is the perfect story of it. They're searching, as one would think. Well, duh, yeah, they would search, but this is my first time that incident like this happens, and it's the first time I'm going back, and my cellmate, the smart guy, didn't even think about this. So when we go back, we're like the last five, and there's a cop standing outside. And when we go back, my cellie's about to go in. He looks back, and he gives me a worried look, and he's like, they're searching. And I'm like, shit, you know? So I go look for myself, and everyone in there is getting naked. And I got this box cutter and this syringe on me, and I'm like, damn it. And so I run back to the back of the line, and I take the box cutter out, and I put it like on the edge of the building, right? Just right there, like the cops, like five people away from me in the front. And then I realized, like, oh man, that's not all I have. I have this syringe. So I tell this older homie, like, hey guy, I got this syringe. What do I do? And I'm only asking him because I'm scared now. I've heard stories about some prison yards having one syringe, and if you lose it, you get stabbed up. Like, you're in the wrong for losing it. So these are my concerns when I'm asking him that. And he's like, just put it in your mouth. And I'm like, put it in my mouth? And we have two kinds of syringes in prison. We have like a real one where you pull back, and a stupid one that you squeeze. And the squeeze ones are a lot smaller. So I tell him, hey, guy, I don't have the little one. I got the big one. He's like, put it in your mouth. And now I feel all this pressure again. This guy thinks I'm scared. It goes back to that for me in my head. Oh, he thinks I'm scared. He thinks I ain't down. I'm trying to tell this idiot I got the big syringe, right? And I'm like, okay, well, F it. I put it in my mouth, and I walk in. And now we're stripping out, and everybody is in here. Like, this is the big dining hall, and everybody's in there stripping out from right side to left side. Going, as you strip out, you'll go. and we're all getting naked, and the cop probably seen my mouth look retarded, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I tell him, and when I tell him, I could feel that my teeth hit that thing, and I could tell that it came out wrong, right? And so he turns around and he's like, oh, I turn around and I'm completely naked at this point. I just squatted and coughed, all that, and I stand up and he's like, what do you got in your mouth? And I had my boxers. I had just grabbed my boxers back off the table, and I'm about to put my feet in the boxers, putting my underwear back up. And he tells me, what do you got in your mouth? And at that point, I blank out, and my cellmate has to tell me after what I did, right? What I did was I looked around at the ceiling, I looked at the floor, and what I'm looking for is like, where do I get rid of this contraband that I have, right? And I just took off running. I don't even know I'm going to take off running. I just have my boxers in my hand, and now I run, and I run out the building again where that one cop was standing. And my cellmate said I looked like a little kid, like a 3-year-old little kid with little white butt cheeks running. And he was like, the cop was going to tackle you. So what
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
So what I did was I shoved the cop, and he went flying. And I thought nobody would see that. But he's stupid too, because all the cops seen that. So now all the cops are telling him, get down, get the F down. And now he runs out the door after me. And he grabbed the door and slammed it shut, and it kind of keeps the cops at bay, at least till they open the door real quick. It's like a real quick delay. He's on the ground in front of the building. They're cuffing him up. I don't know this because I am still running like a madman with this. And now I take it out my mouth, and I'm running, and I like toss it to the left of me, and I keep running. I think they're not going to see this. And then I go all the way to a drain and pretend I throw it down there. So now I'm like, oh, well, they won't have it. You know, we didn't lose it. Like, it's still safe. You know, I did all this, but it's still safe. No, they seen it. They come to me. I'm naked. I'm on the floor. I put my boxers before I went on the floor, and the boxers on the ground is what I'm saying. I'm still naked. The boxers are just on the floor, but I didn't want to touch the floor with my private, so I put the boxers and laid on them. Now, this is the same morning, guys, from the stabbing. Now, this yard hasn't even been put back in yet. Now they see 2 incidents. They don't know what the hell happened. This is not common in prison to see a man running around like a crazy man, naked of that. And they take us to the hole. So once again, we're in the hole. And they tell me, you know, they're going to let me come back to the line. But my cellmate, they end up taking him, because he shoved the cop, so now he's going to get, it's not a real assault, but it's an assault all the same. He got an assault charge on a correctional officer, and then he slammed the door on all them other ones, so they're not letting him come back. He's getting his second shoe within for sure this is within 2 months. And then what they do is they take all your property. So I got a shoe coming up because when they take my property, I have a weapon in there. I have another weapon in a location in my property, and right there they X-ray your property. So when they release me to the line again, I know I'm on borrowed time because I know they're going to find that. So I'm just running around doing whatever I do, and then they finally get me. I'm trying to send my property home. I think I'm sicker than the cops. None of that works. They get me, X-ray, done. You're gone. Back to the shoe.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
And when I go back, you got to go to the hole and do months there before you get to the shoe. So when I go to the hole this time, now this is the second time I've been in the hole. And when I get to this hole, I'm going to tell you real quick so about the guys that were out there, that were basically controlling, pulling the strings, so to speak, right? As soon as I go to the hole, I discover that those guys were protective custody inmates that are running us out there. And I can't believe it. And they're like, yeah. And then they start getting them. So, you know, it all comes to light, is what I'm saying. Everything comes to light. And while I'm in the hole, they're coming in as stabbed up victims because their covers got pulled. and they're dripping in, and in my mind, I'm like, I knew these guys were no good out there. Not saying I knew what they were, but I knew they were not beneficial to our living conditions, you know? And so that whole group was leftovers that stayed, that manipulated the younger generation right there, that we were all kids. That whole line was little, young. And that's what happened to them. Now, when I come in here, I feel like the first time I've been to the hole, the first time I've done the shoe, I felt like I studied a lot. You know, I felt like I'm home. You know, I'm home again. That's what it really felt like, coming back to AdSeg. And that might be because in Juvenile Hall, what do? We do 23 hours lockdown and like an hour of program. So this is the same setup. This is the exact same setup. And the cops treat you better. The inmates treat you better. And everything about this dream is better back here as for an incarcerated individual. At least if you're living this lifestyle, because they could probably be tortured to another set mind of individual in prison. But as I'm in the hole, now I start to meet the best. I mean, I don't want to say the best. I'm saying the worst individual society has met. Right? This is where I really start meeting the. I already thought I met the worst of the worst. This is where I really start meeting the worst of the worst. Right? And I realized, because we're in the hole, that you kick it with your enemies. This is where it like dawns on me. This is where I'm seeing it for the first time. I'm seeing guys from La Puente kick it with guys from La Puente, but they kill each other's homeboys on the streets. And in my mind, it's not clicking. Like I just can't wrap my thoughts around it. And the last time I talked to you guys, I said I was going to bring up something that was from then until now, right? And this is what it is. Like, when I'm on the streets, if I had known, if I'm trying to kill these individuals, I'm thinking that's for life at the time on the streets, right? I'm thinking you're going to be my enemy for life. And I'm not saying it's better, but I'm just saying it would have helped me not even do nothing. If I had known that I got to come to prison and I got to be your friend.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
More than that, I got to back you up. I got to eat food with you. We're going to share the same pictures. My joys are going to be your joys. Your joys, your accomplishments are going to be my accomplishments. You grow that close to them. And when I'm seeing this for the first time in that AdSeg, in that hole, in Tehachapi hole, I'm telling the homie, like, oh, I could never do that. And they're like, you don't got an enemy here. But when you do, you can never be his enemy. I'll tell you what you can't do. That's what you can't do. Now, you could do all that riffraff in the county jail, but in prison, it's not flying. And I just thought it was mind-boggling, and it was very upsetting to me. And now, you know, I'm gonna tell you this part when I call back right now, when it hangs up. But people used to view us.
That was interesting right there. I didn't see that coming when he said that he was gonna he stuck the needle in his mouth. I wouldn't have done that. I would have been too worried about sticking that needle or poking my tongue or my cheek or something. Hopefully they had a cap on it. I mean, probably did, but anyways, I wouldn't have stuck a syringe in my mouth. Or maybe I would have. Maybe somebody out there saying, "Yeah, right, you would have done it." Maybe I would have. I don't know.
This call is now being recorded.
Este es Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Joe Perez.
un preso recluido de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Tel Link.
Hello, Joe.
Hello?
All right. Hey, before you
Yeah,
start, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Because I was talking about the
yeah.
syringe right now when the call hung up, and I was saying that I wouldn't have stuck a syringe in my mouth, but then again, I mean, I wouldn't have, maybe I was in prison, then I would have been under some other type of pressure, where I would have put the syringe in my mouth. Did the syringe have a cap on it? Was it like a full size syringe? Like how
Oh,
many cc's was it?
I don't know about CCs and stuff like that. I can just know put your thumb to your
Hmm.
finger and like put a C, right? Like put a C, like making up a gang sign as a C. It
Okay,
was about that big.
okay, okay.
But that big in your mouth feels big, and it did have a cap, right?
Yeah.
And the way I started off in prison was backwards. You usually go to the main line, and then you go to the hole. Well, with me, I went to the hole and the shoe first, so I never been to the main line, and I'm asking a million questions back there because I don't want to crash and burn like the homie said in the county jail, right? So I'm asking a million and one things to all my cellies and everyone at yard, and I'm like a sponge soaking everything up. And this is the kind of picture they portray to me. They go, sometimes you will go to a main line and there will be one syringe and everyone shares that syringe. So if you lose that syringe, that's your ass, man. Like you know you're gonna get stabbed up. So when I do this, that is the thing I have in my mindset. I'm like, damn, you're over here trying to be a scholar, a gentleman and a scholar when it comes to being homies, and you're gonna take away their last syringe. Like, so I'm thinking for sure I'm gonna get stabbed up when I'm running naked. Like, like these thoughts are coming to mind, and when I realize they're searching us, that's the panic that comes upon me. Like, I can't just, in my mind at least. And I found out they had all kinds of syringes later, but I was like, well, nobody told me, right? But in my mind, I can't ditch it like I ditched the box cutter, the razor blade. I can't do that. That we got millions of those. Who cares if I lose it? I'll get another one. But in my mind, I'm like, you need to protect this syringe, life or death type. At least in my mind, that's how it was,
Yeah.
because of all the stories I had heard.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I changed my tune after I said that. I was like, maybe I would stick the syringe in my mouth just because that was thinking when I made that comment, that was a comment of I'm out here in the street, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
But then it's a whole different story when when you're behind those walls and you can't run and hide from this. Like if some people, if you piss some people off,
Yeah.
you have something coming that's not gonna be nice. It's not gonna be a Christmas gift or a birthday gift either.
Yeah, it's not. And here I am thinking I'm Emmitt Smith with the ball. I can run the ball, and I fumbled the ball right here, like a complete fumble and a complete idiot move. And that goes back to how stupid I really am in prison. Like I think I'm getting gamed up. Like I think I'm sharp. I did the county. I did this, but you come in and you have to learn a whole new set of rules, and you have to learn a whole new set of things. And losing a syringe in my mind at that time was the biggest way I could get myself not in trouble but stabbed up very bad. Because what I didn't say is when you're on a 180 yard, that's what I call real prison, right? So the stabbings right here on these yards, remember in the county jail, it's not too much stabbing. It's a lot of violence, but it's physical, it's fist, it's jumping, it's that kind of violence. This kind of violence leaves you're never walking it back. You're dying. So when a stabbing happens on a 180, the goal is to stab him as much as possible. We always teach, preach, and tell each other, don't get off him. Don't get off him. Don't get off him. So these no warning signs, they kind of go out the window. Now when we can visibly see the gunner cock that gun back and it's going to shoot the homie, we will start yelling, get down. But they know our voices over a CO saying, get the fuck down, right? You could hear it. And we tell you when you go on a mission, that's what we call it, going on a mission. When you hear my voice, just listen for my voice. Just go until you hear my voice. And when we say get down,
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
so the number of puncture wounds for the audience to stab somebody 60 times in prison is not far-fetched on these yards. Okay, let me rewind again. The homies who got caught using that syringe, one of them was, I won't say his name, but if he ever hears this, he'll know who he is. He was from 18th Street, and he had already been stabbed up 81 times. When you get stabbed up like that, you kind of like go in a coma sometimes, and they don't know whether you're going to come back or not. But these are the kind of stabbings that happen on these yards. You know, if you live, kudos to you. If you die, well, you know, you shouldn't have done that. And so when I'm hiding this syringe, I know exactly the punishment I'm going to get if this is indeed the only syringe on this yard, you know? And maybe that kind of brings things into perspective a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know you were gonna, right before the call got cut off, you were gonna speak about something else. Hopefully, you still remember what that was.
No, I don't. I don't even know where I left off.
Oh, so
I don't even know where I left off.
You're going back to your second shoot term. Your second shoot term.
Okay. And I find out the guys are phony balonies, right? That's where I was talking about.
Yeah.
These guys are fraudulent.
Yeah.
They were never supposed to be there, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and this is a good point. This is a good point that you reminded me, right? These guys are fraudulent. They're coming back. So when I come to the hole this time, it wasn't like going to the hole the first time. Now half of the hole, and this might be shocking, but half of the hole is people going to PC yards, and half of the hole is like me being I'm being defiant. I'm digging in. You know, it's me. So at this time is when I realized, like, dang, there's a lot of folks leaving, you know? And at this time, I'm going to tell you, in the near future, I will be giving speeches. And the speeches are like this. Excuse me. If you can't hang, if you're looking at your life and you can't, and you decide this is not for you, you can walk away. Like, walk past that cop, tell him you don't need to be here, and leave. Because guess what? If your heart ain't in it, we don't even want you. If your heart's not there, we don't need you. Because as soon as you leave, we got 200 young homies waiting to take your spot. They're on the streets right now. They don't even know they're coming to prison. We got 500. Like, the point I'm trying to make is, like, we don't need you. I'll let you walk away from this yard. I'll let you leave because we got replacements coming left and right. And when you will give a speech like that, you know, nobody will leave. Nobody will leave, and everybody will look at each other, and they'll just be reinforced, like, I'm a real one. I got this, you know? And I say bro a lot now, but I didn't used to use that word back then. You know, that's a newly word I developed in my later years. Like, it's more friendly, right? So I told you guys how I talked back then. Everything was F this, F that, and that's how I used to talk in the speeches too. But we would openly, especially in those early years, like, you could leave, and we will not stab you. We'll let you walk away because we don't want you. That's not the kind of individual we want right here with us. That's not the one I want to my right side or my left side. But other individuals, those guys leaving, they weren't leaving on those speeches. They were leaving because I can't even say. Every man has his own journey, but they were leaving. The point I'm trying to say is they were leaving in 1999, 2000, 2001. The Aztecs, the holes, at least in Tehachapi, half of them were filled up with people going PC and people that were staying. And these are homies that are leaving. These are gang members that are leaving. They're not in custody for raping nobody. They're not in custody because they got busted and they told on their crimes. They're not leaving for those reasons. They're leaving because the environment on the 180 yard is apparently becoming too harsh for individuals to withstand. So they're leaving for every other reason under the sun, but when you break it all down, it's because of the environment of what a 180 produces, right? And when you go to committee and you're in the back, at least in Tehachapi, because remember what I had, the box cutter. A box cutter is like a giant razor. So on the streets, it might be a normal razor, but into prison terms, it is a giant razor. And when you slice somebody with a box cutter, what develops on the skin is like a worm that looks like it's backwards, like it looks like it's popping out of your flesh. And the staples or the stitches look like little legs on it. And these things are ugly to look at. So when you first see your first one, you're like, dang, that fool got hit nasty. Like that fool got hit gacho. And these are the people that are walking around right here at this time when I'm in the back. Because we end up outlawing the usage of razors in the future, in the near future at that. But at this point in time, we still cut homies in the face. Not in the face like on your cheek or over your eyes, but on the side of your hairline. So you will cut an individual on the side of his hairline, and that will be considered a light check. Like, hey, fool, wake up. Because next time you're going to get drilled on this yard. Remember them 81 stab wounds? That's next time. This time, it's just a light check. Just wake up. Stop being so stupid. And you would also cut on the back of their necks. Like when people are sitting down at yard and they're talking, a homie will come up and slice you on the back of the neck and keep walking because you're not trying to get caught for this either. So you keep walking, and when he's grabbing the back of his neck, other people that know what's going on, they'll take like a bandana and they'll put it on the back of his neck, and they might throw dirt on it, and they'll be like, hey, fool, it was a light check. You know what I mean? Just get your shit together. So this kind of violence is happening all around us at this time, and people are leaving. And in the future, we as a collective say we're losing too many homies. We're too hard on them. And remember, back then, I'm thinking black and white. Like there is no middle ground with me in my philosophy, and many others too. We're just seeing black and white. So the conditions are very harsh, and people are getting hurt, and people are leaving. They're deciding this is not the life I want to live, because as James said,
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
you end up with life in prison, you end up paralyzed, or you end up dead. And this violence is enough to wake some of us up back then. And the other ones are just lost in the sauce still. So when moving forward, when I get to my second hole, I walk in and I'm on a mission looking for like two people right here. Like that's how deep down the rabbit hole I'm gone. I'm waiting to run into one of the two. And when I go to my hole, you got to go to an orientation building. I mean, not a building, but a section, which is B section. So when I get in there, long story short, I hear black people disrespecting us in the worst degree. And then my ears are turned up now, so I'm quiet. I'm on the door, and I'm hearing Mexican people disrespect them in the worst degree. And I'm like, this ain't right. Like in all my teachings, you respect other races, you respect people, and you do nothing behind the door, because behind the door is a coward, and a man will do it to your face.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
These are teachings that have been installed in me in prison, but more so on the streets. Like, you're a man. You handle things according to what a man would do. So I have a problem with this. And keep in mind, I had already done the first shoe term, and I had already I've been to the line. So now I'm feeling more comfortable in prison. I'm feeling like okay, I've been to the line one time. I didn't crash and burn. I'm good, right? Like I can make it. It's a deep level of confidence. So when we get cleared at committee to go to yard, and I'll save this until I call back right now, but when we get cleared to committee and go to yard, I have a huge sense of confidence within me. But I am a very young, naive man still. And I'll call back right now.
All right. So right now, when he calls back right now, I'll go ahead and ask him your question, Felipe, and then he could go ahead and shed some light on that whole needle situation question. But I think if you once you start using needles and you gotta feed your veins. I think all of that, common sense when it comes to diseases and whatnot, it goes out the window. But that's just speculation on my part because I've never been to prison, and
This call is now
Esta
being
es
recorded.
Global Telling. Usted tiene una llamada prepagada de
Joe Perez.
un preso recluido en de la prisión estatal de Centinela, California. Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. Para aceptar esta llamada, diga o oprima ahora el 5. Gracias por utilizar Global Telling.
hello.
Hello.
Okay, so we have a righteous monkey and Felipe that tapped in, and Felipe actually had a question in regards to the needle.
Okay.
And he's asking the question pretty much he asked about needles is if whoever uses these needles, because you did mention that the whole yard would use the same needle, are they scared or concerned about diseases and whatnot being transmitted with sharing needles?
Okay. In Tehachapi, after I had did this incident, I realized they had more than one needle, so it was not a big deal, right? But even when you have more than one needle, you share it with people. Now, in these days, this is like 99, 2000. We would have a Riverside. Now, it's a chemical the cops give you for the hair cutting machine, right? The state issued hair cutting machine, and it's some blue liquid, and supposedly it disinfects everything and does this and that. So inmates will get this from the barbers, and they will store it in their cells, and then they would get the needle and rinse it out with water and draw up this Riverside and rinse it out again. They would try to be clean about it, right? Or they will get bleached. Somehow, some way, some people working at the hospital or whatever will get bleached, or they will still bleach. However it will happen, right? Because these are not items we can have in ourselves. So anything you have is contraband. You're stealing it some way. So that's what they used to do back then. This is like 99, 2000, And I can tell you as of like, I don't know, I want to say in the later years. Let me just say 18, 19, 20, 2017, right? That level of cleanness, of sharing needles and being clean.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
I got other stories, guys, where I'm going to tell in the future. But and things will come out when we get there. But just for sake of the question, people used to try to be clean back in those days. Now, in the future, there really is like only one or two needles being used, and they're remember, and people don't even clean them no more. You're just banging it out like this guy's using it, the next guy's using it. That if you're using it right after each other, boom, 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 until the dope runs out. Like whatever they brought to get high with, as many people could do it, they're doing it, right? And it doesn't look like a back alley where people are in a line. It looks more like this. It's two guys in a cell. They both use it. They give it out. The porter will pick it up, take it to the other cell. The two guys use. Did they clean it? I don't know. Like, okay, they just start banging it out. You take it to the other cell. The other guys are using it. And in the later years, because keep in mind, I forgot to tell you, Tehachapi, when I hit it, it was real racist. Like, we weren't even talking to black people. Black people weren't even talking to us. There was so much tension. And they had just came off a riot, right? But there was so much tension. Now, I say this for a reason. Back in these days, race is really a factor. So as we go to the future, if they trust the porter, if this community within a community of prison, if they trust the porter enough, they'll tell the porter, like, hey, give it to my neighbor. And you'll be like, which one? And they'll be like, and they'll tell you, like, shh, like, shh. And they'll give you the eyes, and they'll point with their finger. And if you're a porter they trust, you're gonna be like, all right, and you'll smile because you're like, okay, now I'm giving it to a black guy. And the porter at the time is probably getting his mind blown because he's like, dang, for years there used to be a barrier between like Mexican and black in prison, right? And this drug got so out of control that it's still not legit to do it in everyone's eyes. But amongst the druggy community, they're feeling comfortable enough to be like, give it to this black guy, cool fool. And then he's showing you like, shh, and he's getting it, and then he's banging it out, and then you're giving it back to the Mexican, and then the Mexican don't even belong to him because it belongs to the homie upstairs. Like, so now it's getting blood and the cleanness and all this, like, that's out the window. The drug addiction got so, it was bad when I came in 99 and 2000, but it got worse, is what I'm saying. People stopped caring about cleaning needles. People just use them like if it's a pen, like, hey, can I use this to write a letter with? Like, they use them like that now in prison, you know? And yeah, it got that bad.
Man, that's
and
nuts.
I just say that to try to give a clear picture of how it evolved and how it went, you know?
Hey, thank you. Really appreciate, painting that clear picture for us. I'm not sure if you guys could hear it in the background, but my wife's putting some food in the air fryer. So if you guys could hear it, we're about to eat whenever it's ready. So hopefully it doesn't disturb the conversation.
No. Yeah, no, definitely can't hear it, but I wish I could smell it, bro. You know?
Yeah, I feel the same way the other day when you were talking about making burritos with chiles in your cell with your celly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, for those that I mean, I'm sure people probably seen millions of YouTube videos by now, you know, so like some inmates got like comales and that's what's going on. And who dropped that chili, man? We were not ready for it, you know. But yeah. Okay. So the next part I'm about to talk about is I think I left off where the black inmates were disrespecting the Mexican race, and the Mexican race was disrespecting the black race, right? And this is the hole that I just walked into. Now, I got to get cleared for yard. So while I'm waiting to get cleared for yard, I am plotting. In my mind, I'm like, I'm so mad at the black inmates for saying what they're saying, right? But in all that anger, there is a homie in charge. So now my anger gets redirected to him because I'm asking other guys that have been in there, like, hey, my ears are not used to hearing these hurtful words, right? So how do you feel about that? Because we're taught when we come in, every opinion matters, right? So now I'm getting feedback off of my peers. And my peers are like, nah, that ain't cool, fool. And I'm like, well, how come you didn't say nothing? How come you haven't done nothing? And they're like, well, we're in the cells. What do you want us to do with these black guys? And I'm like, well, my attention starts turning from the black guys to the homie in charge. And I'm like, how come you guys haven't told him nothing? And they're saying, he's the one that started this. He gets drunk, and before it didn't used to be like this. He gets drunk, and he's from La Puente down the streets, so they don't have too many black people in the residence out there, right? So he comes with a different kind of racism, so to speak, and most of it's directed towards like Bloods and Crips, like for homie hoods and black hoods that share hoods that kill each other. That's kind of where all this comes from. It's not really like racist, but because the gang culture is so strong, if you have a homie from Eastside Longhorn, you gravitate towards that. If a black lives over here in Pasadena and he gets a homie from Eastside Longhorn too, but he's from I don't know what they got down there, 40s, 20s, right? You kind of start gravitating towards your buddies, and you kind of start building up hatreds for like the gang side of things, and the large part of it has to be because they're a different race. So I wanted to say that real quick. So when they tell me they haven't told him nothing, and when they tell me he's the one that started doing all this BS that I'm hearing, I'm like, okay. I go to committee next week. I go to yard next week. Hopefully he's at yard because Now my mindset tells me, I'm gonna stab this individual. I'm gonna stab him. He's not fit to be our leader in this section. He's just out the window. And that's exactly what I do. I go to yard. I go to get cleared for committee. I go to yard. He's not on the yard with me. We have like 3 or 4 different yards because we're in the hole. So there's too many people because they only have 2 yards. So we have to share them at different times. And you always go to the yard with the same group of people because the cops have you on a paper and they know that's yard 1, that's yard 2, that's yard 3, that's yard 4, et cetera, et cetera. So when I go to yard, this guy's not out there. So like my energy's up, my heart's beating. I know what I'm gonna do, and he's not out there. So then I go do the workout, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's a light workout because remember I came from the hard workouts. So then when the workout's over, we used to have this term. We used to say, hey, let's call a junta. Let's call a meeting. So while the gunner's up there on this little yard, we'll go as far as we can get away from the gunner. And we'll whisper to each other so that they can't hear us. So we get all the way in the corner, and it's probably like 15 of us out there. And I call the junta, and everyone's tripping out because this is my first yard. I'm a little kid, and normally people in charge call this, So when I call it, I'm like, hey, guys, how many of you know this individual? And they're like, oh, I know him. And I'm like, well, I'm going to blast him. And I don't know why I start like that, but I do. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stab the shit out of this dude. And they're like, why? And I'm like, look, I just got here on this date. Immediately I started hearing this being said and these people screaming this back, and that don't sit well with my ears. And everyone's tripping out at the behavior that's going on in my section. And I'm like, that's wrong. We should not be disrespecting their people like that. They definitely should not be disrespecting us like that. And this individual caused everything. And this is why I know. And I'm now telling the homies that told me, this fool said this fool said that. So check out my story. Everything's going to clear. I'm not going to be in the wrong. So they're like, you got some older people in there. And they're like, well, just hold on. Let us check this out in our sections. And I'm like, I need your guys' help to get to his yard. Like, I don't know how to navigate a yard from a yard yet. Like, you need the cops to do that. And I'm telling them, you guys need to get me on his yard because this is what I'm going to do to him for that. And this goes on for like 3 or 4 or 5 days, right? Where they're like, we don't know what it's going to do. And remember, get permission. Here I am stating what I'm going to do. And that's what it is. And I'm stating that because it's right. And I know what wrong is. And that's wrong. So at least I know early on right and wrong matter in prison, in our warped sense of belief. Finally, word comes back, and I don't know these individuals. I just know they're getting validated, which means they're going to get life within the prison system. Remember, they go to that prison within the prison, and they stay there forever. So these individuals are now being introduced to my presence, and they're like, just tell the little homie to hold off, just tell him to hold off. And I'm like, okay, I can follow instruction. I'm like a pit bull dog. I got you. Tell me when they're sick, and I'll sick them. And eventually this goes to the future where these guys tell me, you know what, we're not going to hurt him. And I have a problem with that, and I'm expressing it, but they're in control, and they tell me what it is. We're not going to hurt him, but you're going to relieve him of his duty. You're going to take over that section. And he is going to get burpees for his punishment. He's going to do this and do this. And you're going to deliver the kite. You're going to deliver the kite to him when you go to shower on that side. And that kite's telling him that he's no longer in charge, and now that you're in charge. And we're going back and forth on this too, because at the time I felt like I'm a little kid, and I felt like, hey guys, I just want to stab people. I don't want to, I don't want this. And this guy's better for it. This guy's older than me. This guy looks like he's been around. I'm pointing them, giving them pointers on who to pick. And they're telling me, no. If we wanted to pick them, they would already be there. We're picking you for this. So this is my first section that's ever given to me in prison, right? And then in a couple of days, later, maybe like 2 weeks later, they tell me, the yard you're on, that's your yard now.
Le queda un restante de 60 segundos.
Hey, Joe.
And then again, yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but I'm gonna have to cut it just because I
It's okay.
gotta go take my daughter to school right now. So
It's okay, bro.
all right.
We'll continue as we go.
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'll let you go, the audience.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and give it your shout outs before we cut it and
Okay. Just real quick, thank you guys for listening, and we're just trying to give a picture and let you guys take all the positive that comes out at the end, because it starts off very ugly in the beginning. And thank you for listening. Thank you, James, for having me.
Esta llamada y su número de teléfono será controlada y grabada.
all right. Hey, thank you for taking your time out of your day to reach out to me, and then I'll go ahead and reach out to you via the Getting Out app. We'll go ahead and set something up either probably tomorrow, and then all right. Well, the call was cut off. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and like I say, life's like a candle. Once you blow it, that's it. It's lights out. And with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream.